The thing that's got to be really important here is that I think for when we started in the COVID outbreak, the change in working from home from a lot of people was so huge, and it was a massive change, and people were very uncomfortable or people were loving it. There were two very different pockets. We're now sort of 10, 12 weeks on, and this is our new norm. But there's for me, there's still too many people saying that working from home is going to be the future, because working from home is not something that's sustainable. To your point, Dan, earlier, it's about we're all, all six of us are probably dying to get back to see people, because we live on those sort of serendipity moments and having like face-to-face conversations. And actually, for us as specialists, I think we do better for ourselves when we're in front of clients, being able to talk very openly and very candidly about what we do. The concern for me is that too many corporates or too many people are going to think about reducing their HQ, potentially not even having satellite offices, or utilizing the co-working spaces that you guys are talking about, and then pushing more of the working from home element, which for me, from a mental health, well-being, too much digital, too much Zoom, too many Microsoft Teams, all of that just feels like the wrong way. So I think I've seen quite a lot of articles actually on LinkedIn this week talking about working from home is the future. And I just sort of, I'd like to hear from you guys whether you agree with me or whether you agree with those posts, because I just feel that would be too much of a wider push and not good for anybody. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, to your point earlier, Vic, it's at the moment we're working from home, but as a business, we can only put a positive spin on it, really, because it's the only thing we're allowed to do. Given the choice, we'd probably be back in town if we could. And some of the tenants that we're speaking to are thinking about the future, and especially the creative industries as well. Creative industries where people need to meet up and see each other and even get inspiration. I went to see a building in town last week, drove in, was all very safe, but it definitely inspired me in a way that I didn't get from a floor plan and some CGI images. There's a lot more creative people than me in more creative industries. So it's really interesting that, that point around home is the future. Maybe it works for some people, but not all. And your other point around mental health is, yes, it's reactive now. A business to their staff needs to put a positive message on it and control that narrative, because there's no other choice. You're not going to get Barclays saying working from home's horrible because they want to make their staff productive. But I think this will form part of studies and feedback, even the next decade or for a number of generations, the impact that this has had on people. We're very privileged to be in an industry where there's a lot of face-to-face conversation, even over Zoom. I think we're all cohabiting with somebody else, but I think there's a lot of people who are particularly isolated at the moment who need work. And that doesn't even talk about potentially people where home isn't a safe environment. So, I think, is home the future? I think that's short-sighted, if I could say. It's the only solution, because I think there's a lot of people that get benefit in a number of ways, creatively or mental health or even their own safety from having the escape to work, as it were.
I think a lot of people really some of the people I've spoken to have gone in, they've had such a buzz to going back into the office. So, gone are the days where actually going into work again. It's almost seen as a little bit of a privilege, but they're in there. And the feedbacks, as Tom said, from the creatives, no matter how many Teams or Zoom calls they have, it's not the same as actually sitting around, kind of a large table, a large room. We've had more, I don't know if it's, I haven't got any data on it, unfortunately, but the buildings which we've got, which have got outdoor spaces, it's not surprisingly, I guess, but we've actually had more inquiries for those buildings. So the buildings which have got shared terraces, or the office has got a private terrace, actually, because the weather being so nice, I've been speaking to some of my landlords saying that we need to get some, some canopies over the top here so people can actually work from these areas. But that could be lovely in the summer, actually, or even in the winter if you get some heaters out there. So those spaces, you might see all of a sudden on some of the new builds, the floor plates are becoming smaller, but there's going to be a larger outdoor amenity space.
Well, I think there's a lot of truth in that though, Harry. You think so? I think for the first couple of weeks when we had beautiful sunshine, I set up out in the garden underneath an umbrella, took the monitor out there, had the laptop out there, and was set up in the shade, enjoying the outside elements. So I think going forward, businesses are going to require a real diverse portfolio in terms of what they're offering their employees for office space. So we do like working from home. Us as millennials wanted that. I think we were a driving force for wanting that flexibility, not wanting to be tied to an office 9 till 5. But actually it's us now wanting to get back into the office because we're missing that interaction. So I think there'll be an element of working from home. We want to be able to sort of focus on that isolated work that requires our attention and focus. But then we'll want to go to the office to collaborate. We'll want to go and meet people. We'll want to go and see people. And then how do those spaces look, and what drives us back to those spaces, I think will be a fundamental point in terms of that real estate.
Well, there's been a lot on work-life balance as well, right? That's going to come out of this, and I think we can all be guilty of dashing into London at early hours of the day and then not getting back to the late hours of the day. And I think I certainly am benefiting from the additional 2 or 3 hours sleep I'm getting from in the morning, and actually being able to do things at home. And in a previous call that we had with some of our peers in the industry, we were talking about that middle management section. So this is more from a workplace strategist side, but when we do change management, we always find that we've got the board members that are really driving forward for change or really driving forward for a different solution. And then you've got the rest of the business that will follow because the board have said. And then you've got this middle ground of middle management that sort of have an issue with not being able to see their team or not being able to sort of focus without their team being around them. So for that middle management section, we're hoping that this type of lifestyle change will have almost been like a bit of a global change program for them, where they can get used to being remote or having a bit more of a, maybe they get to see their family a little bit more in the evening, and that actually outweighs sort of needing to be running into the office all the time. So the pressure on the office becomes less, but also the ability to have more of a, actually not take for granted what you have at home. I think it's going to be a huge shift as well. So that's probably going to weigh up how the office spaces and even the co-working spaces are going to be utilised. You might even be getting people a higher peak between 11 a.m. and 4 p.m. instead of the original 7 a.m. 8 a.m. starts. So I'm not sure. I sort of live for the drive. I live for running around like an idiot. But we sort of had a conversation about going back to a client site next week, and I thought, that means I'm going to be up at 5, and don't really fancy that just yet. Give me a few more weeks. So we'll see what that comes out. Who knows? But yeah, I think lifestyle and well-being is definitely going to be a huge differentiator into the office environment.
People just want choice. I mean, there was before COVID, it was obviously already shifting that way in terms of office space becoming more consumable, basically, in terms of how people wanted to use it. And it's just going to accelerate that, I think, in terms of how people want, people will just want a lot more choice around what they do day to day. I mean, from a personal point of view, working from the same space day in, day out at home is just stifles my creativity, I find. Yeah. I just find it mentally so tough to stay motivated for long periods. Even to the point when you're on phone calls, you just start thinking, my brain's not really working anymore on this phone call, so you have to go for a walk or something just to get your brain going again, which when you're in town and you're sort of walking around a co-working space, I don't have an issue with that. But it's just nice to be able to have that choice and just mix your day up, mix your week up.